She stood barefoot in the rain, tugging at coat sleeves of strangers who rushed past without looking. Her voice was small, cracked with fear. "Please, my brother can't breathe." Most turned away. But one woman stopped, and what she found would haunt her forever. Sarah Mitchell had perfected the art of moving through life without getting involved. At 47, divorced and worn down by years of disappointment, she'd learned that caring too much only led to pain. She kept her head down, her schedule tight, and her heart locked behind walls she'd built brick by careful brick. That Tuesday evening, she was running late from her shift at the accounting firm, umbrella fighting against the November wind as she hurried through the downtown parking garage. She had groceries in the car, a frozen dinner waiting at home, and absolutely no intention of making eye contact with anyone. Her life had become small by design, predictable, safe, emotionally sterile. After her marriage ended and her teenage daughter chose to live with her father, Sarah had decided that isolation hurt less than rejection. She moved through her days like a ghost, present but not really living, breathing but not really feeling. But that evening, as she fumbled for her car keys, she heard it, a child's voice cutting through, the sound of rain drumming on concrete. She didn't know that stopping would crack open the part of herself she'd been trying to bury for 3 years. The little girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old, soaked through, her thin jacket plastered to her shaking frame, dark hair dripping into eyes that held a terror no child should ever know. She grabbed Sarah's sleeve with both hands, her small fingers desperate and cold. "My brother," she gasped. "He's in the car. He can't breathe right. Nobody will stop. Please, please help him." Sarah's first instinct was to pull away, to say she wasn't qualified, to suggest calling 911 like any reasonable person would. But something in those eyes, raw, pleading, completely stripped of pretense, froze her in place. The girl's voice cracked again. "He's all I have. If he dies, I'm alone." Sarah knew that feeling. She knew it in her bones. Against every instinct she'd built over years of protecting herself, Sarah followed the girl into the darkness between parked cars. They found him in the back seat of an old sedan, windows fogged with condensation. A boy, maybe 10 years old, lips tinged blue, chest heaving with shallow, desperate breaths. His eyes were wide with panic, one hand clutching his throat. The girl climbed in beside him, whispering, "It's okay, Tommy. I found help. You're not going to die. I promise." Sarah's hands shook as she opened the door wider. Asthma attack. She recognized it immediately. Her own daughter had suffered from severe asthma as a child. Sarah had carried an inhaler everywhere, had learned every breathing technique, had spent countless nights in emergency rooms. That knowledge, that muscle memory she thought she'd left behind with her old life, came rushing back. "Does he have an inhaler?" she asked. The girl shook her head, tears streaming. "We lost it. We lost everything." Sarah's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she saw what she hadn't noticed before. Blankets piled in the back seat, grocery bags stuffed with clothes, a backpack with a broken zipper. These children weren't just in trouble. They were living in this car. The realization hit her like a physical blow. These kids were completely, terrifyingly alone. "Where are your parents?" Sarah heard herself ask, though she already knew the answer would break her heart. The girl looked down, her voice barely a whisper. "Mama died last year. Cancer. Daddy. He tried, but he couldn't." She stopped, swallowing hard. 3 weeks ago, he said he was going to find work. He told us to wait in the car. He never came back. Tommy's breathing grew more labored. There was no time for the full story. No time for anything except action. Sarah called 911, gave them the location, then climbed into the back seat and pulled the boy into her lap. "Listen to me, Tommy," she said firmly, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. "We're going to breathe together. In through your nose, slow, hold it, then out through your mouth. Watch me." She demonstrated, exaggerating each breath, and the boy's terrified eyes locked onto hers. As she coached him through each breath, she felt something shift inside her chest, a cracking, like ice breaking up after a long winter. The girl sat pressed against her side, and Sarah put her free arm around those thin, shaking shoulders. For the first time in 3 years, Sarah wasn't thinking about her own pain, her own failures, her own carefully constructed walls. She was simply present, needed, alive. She'd spent years protecting her heart from breaking again. But now, holding these broken children, she realized her heart had never actually stopped breaking. She'd just stopped letting it feel anything at all. The paramedics arrived, administered medication, stabilized Tommy's breathing. But when they tried to separate the children, to take them through proper channels, the girl screamed. Not a tantrum, a sound of pure primal terror. "No, they'll split us up. They always split up brothers and sisters. I promised Mama I'd keep him safe." She clung to Sarah with a strength that seemed impossible for someone so small. "Please don't let them take him, please. He's all I have left." Sarah looked at the paramedic, then at the social worker who'd arrived, then back at these two children who'd been surviving alone, taking care of each other, protecting each other against impossible odds. She saw her own daughter in the girls' fierce protectiveness. She saw herself in their loneliness, their fear of being left behind. And she made a decision that 3 years ago Sarah would never have made. "They're coming home with me," she heard herself say. "Tonight. I'll start the paperwork tomorrow. But tonight, they need a home." The social worker started to protest, began listing regulations and procedures. But Sarah cut her off with a look that surprised them both. A look that said some things matter more than protocols. Some moments require humans to be human first, and bureaucrats second. After phone calls and hastily signed temporary documents, after promises to appear at the office first thing in the morning, she led both children to her car. The girl, Lily, she'd learned her name was Lily, held Tommy's hand the entire walk, even though he could walk fine now, breathing easy with medication in his system. They couldn't let go of each other, these two kids who'd had nothing but each other for so long. As Sarah buckled them into her back seat, she realized she wasn't saving them. They were saving her from a life that had stopped meaning anything at all. That night, Sarah made grilled cheese sandwiches, nothing fancy, but the first real meal those kids had eaten in days. She ran them a warm bath, found old clothes of her daughter's packed away in a closet she hadn't opened in years, and made up the guest room with sheets that smelled like lavender detergent. Tommy fell asleep immediately, but Lily stayed awake, watching Sarah with cautious, evaluating eyes. "Why did you stop?" she finally asked. Everyone else just kept walking. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, smoothing the blanket with hands that had forgotten how to comfort. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "For a long time, I've been very good at walking past things that might hurt. But tonight I think you reminded me that some things are worth the hurt. Are you going to send us away?" Lily's voice was so small, so afraid. "No, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, and felt tears she'd held back for 3 years finally break free. "I think maybe we were meant to find each other. All 3 of us have been alone too long." The girl's hand found hers in the darkness, and Sarah held on tight. 6 months later, the adoption papers were finalized. Sarah's small, careful life had exploded into chaos. School meetings and asthma medications, soccer practices and homework battles, sibling squabbles and family dinners. Her daughter came to visit and met her new siblings, and slowly, carefully, they began rebuilding bridges Sarah thought were burned forever. The house was loud now, messy, full of the beautiful disorder. Of people who actually lived instead of just existed. Sometimes, the people we meet by accident are the ones who teach us how to feel. Again, Sarah had spent years trying to protect herself from pain, only to discover that the heart doesn't heal by staying locked away. It heals by remembering what it was made for, to break open, to let people in, to love even when loving means risking everything. Have you ever walked past someone who needed help and wondered later if you should have stopped? Do you believe some encounters are destiny in disguise, bringing us exactly who we need exactly when we need them most?